Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Screen Crusader podcast. This is Tex-Mex Morty, and with me I got Reeps and JT. Say hello, everyone.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
So this week we're going to be just diving right into the topic, which is Zack Snyder's Justice League. So what were your overall impressions, JT?
So when I first heard that Zack Snyder's cut is going to be out on HBO Max, I was like, yeah, go for it, because the 27 version did not live up to the expectations of fans or critics. But when I saw it, it was amazing. It was incredible. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the movie was the overall atmosphere, the tone. Zack Snyder and the writer did a great job at setting the tone from the first opening scene of the movie. It's like, okay, this is where it's going to take us on an adventure of a lifetime. And overall, his direction was incredible, and overall, it was fantastic, and I can't wait to dive right into the more details. But for right now,
So you said, would you say it met your expectations?
oh yes, it exceeded my expectations, because I came in blind. I did not see any reviews about anybody. I didn't see any spoilers. So what I saw, it was like raw emotion, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
What about you, Reeps?
No, same. Like, I didn't look up anything about it. I just wanted to stay surprised, and oh man, it was just so good. It was just such a gift, really, and it's so good, like, to finally see Zack Snyder's vision just finally come to light after all this time, and it's so stunning. And like, for those who think like, oh, it's not going to be that much different. It is. It's a totally different film, like night and day difference, I would say.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And the fans got what they wanted, and Zack Snyder and WB delivers, and hopefully they will learn from this lesson and continue to put out more projects similar to this down
And I
the
was
road.
going to say, because like, it's just amazing what Hollywood just throws away, because like, they saw this, like the Suits saw this, and they were just like, yep, nope, can't do it, and crump up the paper and throw it. And I'm just like, how do you not see this being successful? Anyway, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, well, I could see why the Suits did it out of desperation, but again, once we get more into it, I'll kind of explore why it went down the way it did.
Yeah.
But anyhow, as for me, you guys know I'm not the biggest DCEU fan. I love DC. I love their animation. I love their comics. I love their games. Their movies, though, if it was part of the universe, I usually did not like it. And I was going in expecting just like, this was better than what we got last time, but nothing special. But I will say I was really surprised with how it turned out. It did have its flaws here and there, but overall, it exceeded my expectations, because like I was very vocal that I didn't think it was going to be a huge difference. I thought it was a little bit like 2 or 3 steps ahead, but it was what we should have gotten to begin with.
Would you say like it was like the most solid like DC film? Like,
oh, it's probably
like
my
up there
favorite
with,
one.
like Dark Knight and those. Even though
as
like,
far as
I would count it as DC, but
Yeah.
It's
well, I would put it up there, similar to those, not quite at that level.
Okay.
But as far as DCU films go, I now see, even though he had a couple missteps early on, I now see where Zack Snyder was kind of going, and it helps elevate those movies a little bit.
It does.
And I will say this is probably the best we've gotten from the DCEU.
Yep.
All right, so who wants to jump in and get a little bit more in depth to it?
I can start. So this is like the first opening scenes of the movie really connected BVS and this movie seamlessly, because as you guys know, Superman died in BVS, and with this movie kind of explain what happened afterwards, and the whole like exposition in part 2 made so much sense to me. And it seems to me that we were going to end for a treat right in the beginning. And I just think that the characters developed themselves beautifully over the course of 4 hours. When I was watching the movie, it did not feel like it was 4 hours. It felt like I was watching a masterpiece, an artist painting his masterpiece to perfection. Cyborg was great. He was the heart and soul of the movie.
Like MVP.
He got shafted in the original. That I didn't know that they were actually gonna have him be in it so much or be such an important factor.
And we'll talk more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, but Cyborg was the heart in the movie, and I felt like this was Cyborg's movie.
Mm-hmm.
Even though this like Justice League title, I feel like Zack Snyder did a fantastic job of resurrecting Cyborg's story from the 2017 version, and the whole cast was phenomenal. Steppenwolf to me was a great villain because he showed a lot of humanity. Towards like close to the end, I mean, he just broke down. He's like, I did everything that you want me to do, and still you don't appreciate what I did.
It's about his redemption.
Yeah, it's about his redemption, and it just broke my heart to see him that way because
it gives him so much more motive.
Yeah,
to what he's doing.
So those are some of my takes. Again, this is spoiler free, so I can't say a lot but overall, so many elements of resurrection, of betrayal, of just humanity itself, and the nightmare might become is brilliant. And I believe that this was the strongest DC movie up to date, behind Man of Steel. I think is up there. So,
well, you guys say that you guys didn't feel like it was overly long.
No, because the thing is, it gets down to like the nitty gritty. It's just it doesn't waste any time. It's pretty much like all action most of the time. And then when it's not, it's just fleshing out all of the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, which leads me to my point. So I'm going to talk about two big things here. Just the differences in characters compared to the theatrical cut and what's been taken away from the theatrical cut too.
Well, speaking about time, though, I felt the pacing was actually really good. I will agree with you guys there, but I did feel it was overly long. Again, I'm going to let you guys get a bit more into it because you sounded like you were going to have some really good points.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking outside of us, like a more casual viewer, could you see them getting kind of feeling like, oh man, this is long. This is really long
too. Yeah.
Because let me look at my notes. I did write down exactly when I started feeling it was kind of long. It actually wasn't till, let me see. There you go. So I wrote it down around part 5.
Okay.
Halfway through, or 3/4 of the way through part 5, I felt like it started not dragging, but like I've realized I've been here a while. I might have to go use the restroom, maybe get a snack, do something. And that's around the time that I just, again, I'll let you guys go first because I'm going to get into why I think this occurred the way it did. But I'll go back to you, Reeps, because you sounded like you had a couple points that sounded really good.
But first off, I will agree with you that it is long, but the thing is, JT and I we're such big DC fans that we just really didn't mind. And the people I was with when I was watching it, we were big DC fans too, so we were just in awe of everything that's happening. But one of my friends was telling me, it's they could have had this in the theater, just cut it down to 3 hours maybe, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, kind of. There's a few things they could have done to do that. For starters, cut some of the slow-mo in half. Some scenes were really epic in slow-mo. Right. It actually
That's
worked.
Zack Snyder, though. He's always with this slow-mo.
Yeah, but even he had some unnecessary slow-mo scenes. He had, was it? When Lois Lane was getting coffee in her introduction, he had a 30-second to a minute slow-mo of her going outside the door. And I'm did this really have to be slow-mo?
There's an epic mop drop from a janitor, and that's in slow-mo. I'm Jesus, Zack Snyder.
That's what I'm saying. If he took out half of the slow-mos, this movie would have been 2 hours and 50 minutes. But
that's just it. That's a signature thing. 300, watching it, it's all the slow-mo.
Yeah, but it did work in a lot of the scenes. It did give them a panoramic epic feel.
Some of them just look like it's a painting.
Yeah,
and it just kind of freezes there.
But I will say some of those slow-mos were completely unnecessary.
Epic mop drop.
Yeah, epic mop drop. So it definitely felt, like I said, at part 5 that I was just sitting there and it was...
One eternity
But that was on, like you guys said, as a fan myself of these characters and such like that, I didn't mind it, but I was
Yeah,
thinking it
yeah.
in a sense of,
Yeah.
if I'm starting to feel this is kind of long and I need to take an intermission, how would it have felt if I was a casual viewer,
Mhm.
like somebody's uncle who isn't that big into them, and they're going to see it with their nephew
Yeah,
or
just
their
go like,
grandson
Yeah.
or their son, daughter,
Agreed.
anything like that. Like, I feel like they would, if this was in the theater, they'd be like, dang, my butt's hurting. I need to go get a concession.
I mean, just speaking of long movies, there's been a lot of long movies over the past decade, like Titanic, Avatar, that is like 3+ hours. And so, but I think with
Lord
Justice
of the
League,
Rings, like Return of the King.
yeah,
Yeah.
so but I think with the difference between Justice League and all those movies is, I feel like it's like one continuous story. There weren't any breaks. If there were, it was more of a exploratory aspect of why do these things happen.
Mhm.
Why do we put this in this movie the way it's supposed to be? Why is this happening?
Yeah, yeah, and it was a
Because-
lot of footage.
Oh
too.
yeah, I agree because because if it wasn't for those, then we wouldn't have been lost.
Mhm.
I think the justification of the 4 hours is we have all this material, right? We have all this material. We need to expand on these ideas. If we don't, people will think that this movie was not justified.
It
Yep,
would have been
yep.
have been fleshed out.
Mhm,
Yeah.
would
And I
have been
agree.
fleshed out.
That's where one of the caveats for me happened. But again, I'll get to that later because it
Mhm.
was, I see where it's coming from, and I like that we have a 4-hour version that explains it. But the whole DCEU could have avoided this if they had done something slightly different.
Right.
But we'll hand it over to you, Reeps, like you were saying. Go ahead and start off with one of
Yep,
those points that you had.
Yeah. So like I was saying, just like the two things I want to talk about here are just the main differences from the theatrical cut
Mhm.
and the things that were taken away from the theatrical cut too. So with differences, like there's so many different things that they've done to all of the characters, all of them. Just change in the lighting, music. You know, it's not like like the cringy like "Come Together" song that they did. Really didn't like that. The story. Well, here's the thing. It's like the same narrative. You know, it's like, okay, it's a Justice League that they have to get together and
It hits the
unite
same
against,
beats.
Steppenwolf. Yeah, it
It's
hits
just
the same
a
beats.
lot more fleshed out.
But the way they do it is it's different and it's more fleshed out. Yes.
It has more substance
Yeah.
to it. It has a reason.
Yeah, backstories, especially for Cyborg. Yeah, and Steppenwolf.
Mhm.
And it does set up for the extended universe. And the things taken away are like the cringy humor, the one-liners, like Batman's like awkward humor that he had like in the theatrical cut. Like that's gone. Like that is completely gone. Or like, like the scene where like Flash falls on Wonder Woman and he's like, "Ooh, I'm sorry," and so like that's gone. That's nowhere to be found.
Well, that's
Mhm.
damn Whedon, man. He
Yeah.
did that with Age of Ultron when Bruce Banner fell on Black Widow's boobs. It's like,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
that was
do you think
unnecessary.
like the suits thought like oh like people like Avengers, right? It's funny, right? It's lighthearted. Let's put that in. Let's put that in Justice League. They'll like it.
They could have put it in. It's just not
That's
Joss
what they
Whedon.
probably thought.
Joss
yeah.
Whedon for me has a lot of stuff where he does have some really good stuff that I like. But he does have a lot of hit or miss when it comes to his comedy.
Yeah.
And also
And-
another thing about the 2017 theatrical cut is Josh Whedon is a good director, but it was the execution. He did not execute the movie properly as to
Well-
way that it seemed.
Well, that has to do with him trying to put his vision on something that, like
Right.
we said, it hits the same beats,
Mhm.
similar beats. So it seems like the suits wanted this story, he wanted to input his story, and it became a Frankenstein's monster.
And
Oh,
also,
yeah, I
you
agree.
could tell that it's been rushed because, he did have to step down. Zack Snyder had to step down. And when you watch a theatrical cut, it's like, it just feels like just two different directors.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, yeah. So, all the cringy humor and one-liners, that's gone. All those
Except for a
weird
few.
scenes gone. Which one?
I said, except for a few, mainly when it came to Ezra Miller's Flash's stuff, he had
Oh.
some cringy stuff here and there.
No, I don't really agree with that. I actually kind of liked it. It's a little charming. I thought it was better done here than when it was in the first cut. Because the thing is, like in the theatrical cut, he's just purely for like comedic relief,
Yeah.
and his humor kind of just like it goes like all over the place. But like I was saying before, like that has been changed because he and Cyborg, I thought were the two MVPs of this movie, the ones that were most useful, and then end up just doing most of the work.
I agree with you, Reeps,
Yep.
because Cyborg and Flash had a purpose in this movie. In the theatrical cut, they didn't do anything spectacular, but in this one, they had a purpose and a goal in this movie, and they succeeded.
Because the thing is, in the first one, it's like Flash is just like, he's a klutz, and it's funny that he falls over and stuff, and he doesn't know what to do. And here it's like he knows what to do. He's been the Flash for a long time. He knows how to save people. And Cyborg, and in the first one, Cyborg's kind of like an overly brooding, kind of buzzkill. But then this one, it fleshes him out so much, and
it shows why he's rooting and such.
Why he's like that, and it shows good deeds that he does, and it explains his powers that he can just. I don't want to go too much into it because I'll spoil it.
Oh,
but,
hey Morty, Reeps, I have a question. Before you go, Morty, what do you guys think of Batman's leadership throughout the whole movie? So, do you think he did a good job leading the troops towards like the end goal of stopping all the bad guys, or do you think he kind of did a few things that he should have done? Or what do you guys think?
Like all that weird humor that he had, that's gone. And once he puts on that cowl, it's down to business. And I was gonna say pretty much all the characters, straight down to business. Just like they just kick ass, and they don't skip a beat doing it. And it's just amazing seeing them, all just fight people, and like I thought their chemistry was really cool. Yeah, but I would say Batman was a lot better, and
he felt more like a hero to me in this cut.
Yeah.
But I will go back to what we were talking about, the Flash. My take on him is one that splits me. I'll play devil's advocate.
Okay.
On one side, I still find Ezra Miller, Barry Allen annoying and cringy, but I do like what they're doing with the Flash. So when he's the Flash, I kind of like him. When he's just Barry Allen, I'm still like, I don't like you. We'll go back to you. Had another point?
Yeah, and one last thing, Steppenwolf's makeover in this one, like, and that's another thing that's been taken away. That really bad design, that really bad CGI design with that weird face in the theatrical cut, that is gone, because here he is beastly looking. His armor is like alive. It's like a second skin. When I was looking at his armor, I was just entranced by it. I just loved it. It was so intricate, and you see like the iridescent colors, like the purples, the greens mixed in there, the golds. And it looked amazing. He is just ferocious.
Yeah, and also another thing, like the way the wind moves as he was battling the Amazons, it was incredible, and so much detail in that suit really popped in the screen. So.
And his hands are so like beastly. He has like those two like extra thumbs, and he's huge. But the thing is, like, as beastly as he looks, there's still like some humanity like in his eyes. And there's some scenes where where he's talking to someone.
I agree.
And there's a whole thing with the redemption, and you see it in his eyes that he wants to do right by his master, and he wants to be back at his side.
Yeah.
Again, and it just added so many layers to him. It's just like I buy it. I know why this guy's doing it. But yeah, he was great. I really loved Steppenwolf this time around.
Yeah. They did improve on him a lot. They gave him a fleshed out story. They probably could have gone a bit more into that. But yeah, I personally, his design I liked. I did not like too much when the armor would just move for no reason. He'd be standing there and it's just moving around. I wish it would only move around when he would be doing something like he's about to change and to make it thicker or smaller. Or like you said, it was really cool when he would not need it and he would just, and it goes away and then it comes back.
Yeah, because it's like a second skin, and it looks so much more like alien looking. Like this is technology that comes from Apocalypse. Yeah, that is supposed to be like unmatched.
I did like the fluorescent colors that it came, but yeah, I just wish that it would have less going on at random moments. Again, if he's just standing there, I don't see why it should be like moving everywhere.
But personally, I really love that aspect. So that
Yeah, I could see it. I'm not like, it's not anything that would be like, oh, I hate it, but I was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
why is it moving? Why is it doing this? But
Another thing I want to say is without revealing too much, but Superman's entrance in here is way more impactful than it was in the first cut. Way more
I agree.
impactful.
I actually wrote that
Yeah.
down in one of my notes.
And, his suit's amazing. I'm a sucker for that black and silver suit. Oh, it just looks great. And weird Henry Cavill CGI face is gone.
Yes, it is.
What? That was the best part. Mustache gate. Oh man. What about you,
His,
JT?
constantly
You got
warping
any
face.
points that you want to add to that?
I have to piggyback what Reep said about the music. The music to me defined the movie in
Mhm.
certain scenes, especially in the battle scenes, and also just the way it presented itself when like all the heroes are fighting Steppenwolf and everything. Like each individual superhero scene just
It sounds
came
like
out.
300, like in
Oh,
some
yeah.
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, and the music defined the movie, and I agree with Reeps, I wish this movie was in theaters.
Mhm.
Just hearing, blasting all the music and the lighting and the dark tone. Thank you, Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
for
it gave me goosebumps when I saw it. Yeah, and that's the thing, because like I would have loved to see this in theaters and see like everyone's reactions to it, and see them just all lose their minds. And I think we were saying that last episode too, like
Mhm.
missing like going to like the theater and like
Yeah.
just to see the experience with a big movie like that.
Mhm.
It would have been like, I think it would have elevated the experience if
Yeah.
if it was out in theaters.
And also another thing before Morty speaks, like close to the end of the movie, but that scene where like the heroes see the portal and you're like, what could it be? Like, this is insane. Like, are we actually going to get this down the road? I
Mhm.
mean, that was one scene that I was looking forward to if WB decides to push forward with the Snyderverse.
Yeah, and I will add on to that. I think we all know that there's a nightmare scene in this movie that first started in BVS
Mm-hmm.
with Batman's Dream, and you do see glimpses of it in this movie. And the thing is, I went to I saw this thing with my friends that they were showing me, and it was the storyboards for the Snyder Cut and Justice
the
League
exhibit
2. Yeah.
in Dallas, right? The
Yeah,
exhibit
yeah,
in
yeah.
Dallas.
And it was it was just everything on it. And it was he was gonna save all that for Justice League 2 and 3. That it was all gonna take place in the Nightmare universe with Superman evil and all the characters like trying to fight against his regime. Very injustice-y kind of like. But the only thing that's just, I would have loved to have seen that like just happen. And I just hope it's not too late. I hope it's not too late
Yeah,
for
me
this.
too.
The thing is, what I want from this is just, I want the fans to kind of like unite and be like, okay, this is what we want. Like, you're gonna keep making DC movies. This is like the tone that we want. This is how you do it. All right. If you want to do like your like solo stuff, and you can make those and make them lighthearted and stuff, but when it comes to Justice League, this is what we want, because
Well, I
it's
feel like-
epic. It's just epic.
I feel
Yeah.
like if they're gonna do the solo films, they should kind of match the tone though, because it's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
be a
agreed.
weird stark
Mhm.
contrast if you see Aquaman being all jokey and all of a sudden he's decapitating someone or getting impaled or
Yeah.
some
and
crap
yeah,
like
and
that.
the thing is just that this movie is so much more like impactful, and it has so much more depth, and it's more powerful than all the standalone. Yeah,
agree.
that opening scene in Themyscira is so much more powerful than than what we've had before. It's just, and you feel it. Like, you feel like what these characters are like going through. You feel the threat, and then you.
Yeah, also like the pain of Superman's yell. I mean, it was like this guy is getting killed by kryptonite, and his yell just
Yeah, I will
Almost
say
like-
that's okay. That's one thing we'll spoil. At the beginning, it does show Superman screaming as he gets stabbed.
It's
by,
kind of like
Doomsday.
it was just the reimagining of what
Yeah.
happened in BVS.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's not really a spoiler. I wouldn't consider it. If you've seen BVS, you
Yeah.
kind of know where this scene is.
I think the trailer showed that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So
But anyway, yeah, I would say it's just epic, and it was such a gift. It's such a great experience to watch it, And like I said, it's great to see like Zack Snyder's vision like come to light after all this time. And I was just gonna say that it really is amazing what Hollywood just ends up throwing away, because I just really don't get like how they saw this and just like, yep, it's not gonna work, and just scrapped all of that. I don't know. It's just, but like you were saying, hopefully like with the next future DC films, like they'll just have this amount of depth to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. So now it's time for me to put my foot down, because you guys have nothing to praise to say it, and while I did enjoy it, I will admit to its faults, that it has its flaws.
Well, I was gonna say like one flaw. One flaw I would say I'm gonna say for the spoiler segment,
Okay.
because it's just one. It's really just one thing for me, but that's it. Yeah.
Okay. You got any flaws you want to add before I go down the 5 minute
wait,
description?
just one more thing. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's just that like seeing this, it's just shame on WB for keeping this away from us this long, and also this movie could have came out a lot earlier. You know, like this could have came out like in 2016 or like, and I feel like, okay, just because Marvel's doing their stuff, you know, and they're booming, doesn't mean that like you have to be overwhelmed by that. You know, match it up. I'm sure if like they released this at the same time that was out, it would be super successful and like it'd make a lot of money and people would like it. And
My point's actually going to contradict yours. It's going to be a lot different than yours, because you're saying it should have came out earlier. I feel like it should have came out later. It should have. I felt like the reason this whole situation happened, or it's not. I feel the whole reason this situation happened was because they rushed it. They were like you said, they were afraid of Marvel kind of beating them to the punch. They felt like they weren't quite there, so they just threw Justice League out there when this movie clearly needed more time to brew. This movie, they needed to give Zack Snyder more time to be able to do his vision.
Right. But like the thing is, it's just that they had all this ready probably like years and years before. They just should have just gone with it, just greenlit it, just go with it.
Actually, Morty, I kind of agree with you because of what the circumstances that Zack Snyder had to endure. I think they should have waited. They should have waited until this whole thing kind of settled down and then bring back Zack Snyder and just release it at a later
he had
date.
a family emergency that was no joke. Like Warner Brothers should have been a bit more thoughtful. I feel like you have a business to run, but this is his baby. This is his vision, his everything, and his actual baby had a tragedy. Like his daughter had a tragedy, so they should have just waited.
I loved how at the end it said for autumn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the points I gave to my wife. I told her and my parents when we were talking about this, I mentioned, I'm like, that was impactful because maybe it wasn't the way I perceive it, but I perceive it that the reason this one was so good was because his daughter's death kind of affected him. And he came back with his A game. He came back and he gave it his all to honor his daughter, because he was going to put that shout out to her at the end of his movie. And I feel like that gave him the focus. Afterwards, dedicating this movie to her, I feel like it just pushed him to give it his all, to give it everything he's got in order to make her proud, type of deal.
Yeah.
But okay, so did you want to add anything before I start going?
No, go ahead, Morty. You got the floor.
All right. So for me, I will say before we get to like the final verdicts and I go through my personal pluses and minus and final scores and such like that, I will say the caveats were that the foundation was the issue. The foundation was why this movie was so long when it didn't need to be. And that was because Warner Brothers was wanting to rush this out the door. They were trying to get to Justice League as soon as possible. Zack Snyder probably said, hey, they got him in, and he was probably like, I want to do a Man of Steel movie. I want to lead this up to this. I want to lead this up to that. Eventually getting to Justice League and then going on from there. And you could tell that he did have stuff planned out. But I feel like Marvel was kind of making billion after billion, and almost all their movies after a certain point, most of them were getting close or breaching that 1 billion mark.
Mm-hmm.
And Warner Brothers was like, hey, I want some of that cheddar too. I mean, cheese on the board. But what's it called? So the Foundation, I feel like, I hate to compare them because they are two different types of things.
True. Yeah.
But I feel like in some ways they would have benefited from doing the Marvel way of individual movies and not do what they did in terms of making it overly long, because they had to set up 5-6 different movies. That's one of the things I wrote, that it had to, due to its foundation, it had the Age of Ultron dilemma.
It was
a lot
just
of people,
like a loss of direction.
a lot of people did not like Age of Ultron because it had way too much going on. It had to set up its own movie. It had to set up Infinity War. It had to set up basically all of Phase 3, actually, not just Infinity War. It had to set up all of Phase 3 while trying to be its own movie and doing so much going on. And this is where this one had that same issue, except given the 4 hours, they made it work because they had that time.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't need to be 4 hours. What's it called? Because they wanted to introduce so many characters. All we had was Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman.
Mm-hmm.
That's only about like half of the Justice League right there. So I feel like they should have had Aquaman 1 kind of be first to kind of not have to introduce him.
Yeah.
And then maybe that way you only have this movie, the Nightmare setup, and Flash and Cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
That's only 4 things, which is still a lot, but it could have shaved off a good...
No, I see. Yeah.
It could have shaved off a good hour or so of the movie at
that
least.
makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Warner Brothers should not have rushed this and either made Justice League come out later or have put an extra movie right after BVS.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that they could get some of these, because again, I thought they did a good job in introducing all these characters, but I feel like they felt they needed to introduce them now so that they could get Justice League out in 2017, meet that dead goal, because they wanted to have like Darkseid and Steppenwolf and all this team up before Marvel had their big event, which was Infinity War the following year. They were trying to meet that deadline.
Yeah.
And shame on them, because of that, the fans got gypped. Zack Snyder got gypped. Joss Whedon, his reputation also kind of, I mean, he was already on thin ice, but because me personally, I feel like he has more projects that are missed than a hit. I do love some of his projects, but a lot of them I'm like, that could have been better. But it did no one service. The movie didn't do as it should have, and Warner Brothers has themselves to blame for that. And another thing that caused was in this one that the CGI was wonky in some scenes. Some scenes it was just like you could tell it was not finished because he was only given a smaller budget to work with all these reshoots and all this CGI.
Yeah.
So it's like
mustache.
But like if they would have not given that money to Whedon and all that and kept it for Zack Snyder and had the original budget of the movie that they had in mind, some of the CG and such that we got in Snyder Cut would have been polished. It would have been perfect. Although they did a really good job. A lot of the scenes looked fantastic. It was just a few here and there that I'm like, ooh, those textures look muddy, or that model looks weird, or Wonder Woman's kind of like very cartoony looking at times. But other than that, it was I actually didn't have any more what I would consider negatives. Like, it was all mainly due to not even this movie's fault. It's the little missteps that led to this. The little things that Warner Brothers did to kind of self-sabotage themselves. But in the end, we the fans won. Zack Snyder and the fans won.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, what I was saying before is that even with all this, just I'm hoping that this gives them like a second chance, and the fans like really like raise their voice with this and be like this is what we want. Okay, you're gonna make more Justice League movies. They need to be like this. Get Zack Snyder or something close to Zack Snyder. We need to like have this. You know, we need to follow through with this.
They did see the money in the Snyder Cut. They
and that's the thing. They saw the money.
They saw the fact that the hashtag release the Snyder Cut was making waves through the internet. So they said, hey, there's potential for money here. So I have a feeling that there, or maybe it's just me being hopeful. But I don't want to see this be like an never ended, like a book that you never get to read.
Never do anything with it,
because I feel like this movie is gonna create more fans.
So much more potential.
It's gonna bring back the fans who were fighting for this.
Regain its audience. Yeah.
Regain its audience. Bring new ones in, and well, without further ado, though, let's just go ahead and get down to the final verdicts. Though, let's go ahead and see like give some quick points, like maybe 3 or 4 positives, a couple of negatives if you had any, and then what you would rate it in terms of maybe 1 to 10.
Yeah. So for me, I'll start off. One of the positives throughout this movie was all 3 visions that Steppenwolf, Batman, and Cyborg saw throughout the whole movie, because it kind of gives a glimpse as to what the future may hold or will hold if Zack Snyder or WB continues on this road, because those visions to me gives a prospect of, wow, this could happen, and like the fate of the universe rests on the 7 of the Justice League. And
it's more weight.
Yeah, it was more weight, and to me that was beautiful. That was necessary to go on this future road. Another positive for me was like the whole battle sequences. Like each part of the Snyder Cut had a battle sequence, which I really enjoyed, because not a lot of movies have like battle sequences throughout. I mean, some have like major battle sequences at the end, but only like a handful of movies had like battle sequences within. But I think Snyder did a good job at balancing between the informational point of the movie as well as having like a balance of action and informative.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I really liked. I didn't see any negatives, but Morty, you made a great point of how WB rushed it. I agree with you. I think they should have waited, and Marvel has such a years beyond them that they tried to push out a lot of movies which were in development or not development hell and everything.
When they should have done their own thing.
Oh yeah, they did. I mean, they tried to. So, but I give props to you. That was a great point. Hopefully DC stayed its course. Will stay the course. Yeah. And who knows? Maybe down the road we will eventually see Justice League 2.
What about you, Reeves? Oh no. Wait. Score.
Score. For me, I would give this a 9.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Again, I said it's one of the strongest DC movies to date, but I'll put Man of Steel as number 1 because it kind of set the tone of what a DC movie should be.
Oh, and it's good, yeah.
I mean, it was
still really good.
The Man of Steel was dark in nature, tone, and everything. But also a caveat to me is Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League was the birth, the death, and the resurrection of Superman. That was Zack Snyder's vision all along was Superman, and I thought that he did it perfectly.
Yeah.
What about you, Reeves?
No, again, like just epic. Loved every minute of it. Just goosebumps. If I saw this as a kid, I would just probably lose my mind, because it's just like Justice League Unlimited stuff, like like all those like cartoons and animated series I used to watch. Like it just felt like that, and it was just like it's a breath of fresh air.
With how brutal it was, I hope you wouldn't be watching it as a kid.
No, it's good. There's a scene in Justice League Unlimited where Aquaman has to cut his own arm off, and so it's like that. So I'm just like, it's all good. But I would say, like, even with the rushing stuff that you were saying, still, how can you just scrap this? Because this is just, I'm telling you, this is like a delicious like double stuffed like burger, and then like the theatrical cut's just like a salad with just croutons and no dressing on it. It's just missing just a whole bunch. And
heck, not even the croutons, man. No, nothing on it. Just lettuce and like coleslaw.
Yeah, lettuce and coleslaw.
But it was so much. It was meaty. Like it it had a lot of
That's what I'm saying. The
meat
depth, yeah.
and all these ingredients and everything coming together, stewing it up. Man, it's like that has something brewing, man.
All right. Well, what would you rate it,
Like a
Reeps?
chef's kiss.
Yeah.
What would you rate it, Reeps?
I would give it an A. It's just solid.
A, 1 to 10.
I won't give it like a complete like 100, but it's just a solid A.
Like a 90.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, I went in with the mentality of, would this be justice for the Justice League? And I did. I have my little points right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start off with the negative so that it doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
The fact that it was a little bit long, like I covered
Right.
in my little tiny WB rant, because screw those guys.
Yeah, and again, screw those guys for keeping this away from us.
The CGI was wonky. While it was epic in 90% of the times, I feel a few of the times it was artificially epic. Like they would just do slow mo and be like, have the lady go, oh yeah, like Avatar
But it's pretty
movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Which was
it's like 300 goodness.
yeah,
It's
like
just-
I said
like
though,
it.
in some instances it worked. In other instances, it felt like epic mop.
Epic mop.
What's it called? But overall, it had great set pieces. Like some of the overall things, it just felt like looking at a comic book. One of those
Yep.
really good,
Mhm.
like 2000s to nowadays epic dark DC comic
Yep.
books.
Mm-hmm.
The
Again, just
pacing,
epic.
the pacing was really good, even though the movie felt long at times. It didn't, like you guys said, it didn't skip a beat. It actually had a mission, and it went out completed that mission.
Yeah,
It just
yeah,
went out and did it. It didn't drag on. I thought
More
it would
streamlined, more cohesive.
going in. I thought it was gonna have like, it was just gonna be like those deleted scenes that you sometimes see in the
Oh,
bonus
yeah,
features
yeah.
that are like, well, I see why they deleted that. That was pointless.
Mhm.
And I could only think of like one or two in this that it had that. The rest of the movie, for a 4-hour movie, to have one or two scenes that I felt like didn't need to be in it,
Mhm.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive, because that means the other like 3 hours and 45 minutes I feel were worth it.
Mhm.
And the characters, I didn't get to touch upon it
Yes.
when you guys were talking about, but the characters I actually liked. Again, I wasn't a big fan of the DCU at first, but this puts, not only does it improve these characters in this movie, it improves them in the previous movies. It gives a
Yes.
new
Yeah.
shine of light.
So
And
much more impactful.
in this one, I cared about some of the characters, and everyone felt like they had a purpose. No one
Yeah,
felt
true.
they all
Yeah,
had
yeah,
their
yeah.
moment to
Yes, they
shine,
did.
and it didn't feel
All
forced.
of
It
them.
felt like Batman got this team
Mhm,
together, and in
yeah.
the end, it was the right call because they
Yes.
all played their part
Mhm.
into how to save the world.
Right, they're an actual team.
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
So, as like my common mind mentality, I would give this probably a 7.5. But here's the big kicker for me is, as a fan mindset and everything like that, and just due to the sheer passion and out of Zack Snyder and fans, out of respect for him, and that he finally gets to rest because he got his vision put out there, and the fans got what they deserve.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll give it an extra, from my personal opinion, an extra 0.5, raising it up to about an 8 out of 10.
Like
A must watch
yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep.
So I will add to this segment because I will be eating crow. I will say, like I mentioned earlier, I did not think this movie was going to be all that great. I thought it would be cool but not good. But it looks like Zack Snyder brought his A game.
Yes, he did.
And this actually made a world of difference.
Yes.
A whole,
And
yeah.
100% I
Big
would
world of
watch a
difference.
part 2 if they bring it.
Yeah.
Yes.
As long as it's not 4 hours long, if it's like 2.5 to 3,
No, yeah.
I'd be
yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah.
I want to see
Mhm.
where this guy takes it from here.
Mhm.
So, you guys would put a must-watch seal to this?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. If you're a big DC fan, yes.
All right.
And if you enjoy battle scenes and action sequences and character development, this is a must watch.
If you like epic movies, yeah.
All right. So there was justice for Justice League.
Yes, it is.
Congratulations, Zack Snyder, and us the fans. But like I said, I will be eating crow,
Yeah,
so
it's a win.
I like to get the audience engaged into this because it is something that I wanted to do, and I've talked to you guys about it. When it comes to eating crow, let us know in the comments to see if when our prediction is wrong, we like to admit it. I'm okay with admitting it, so I will be eating crow, but we would like to let the audience see what crow should we eat. Like maybe get some really spicy dish or something like that. We'll have
No. Crush up hot Cheetos with the buffalo chicken rollers from Racetrack, with the hot Cheeto mac and cheese, and then just pour a whole bunch of Tapatio on it. That's for
there
you.
you go. What do you
That's for
think,
you.
audience? Should we
Give you
do
the bad
that,
poops.
or like
Give you the really bad
do a spin wheel and have different torture stuff on there that will be like just chug a whole cup of Frank's Red Hot Saucer. Just let us know if that sounds like a
do you
fun
remember,
idea for the next week.
Bean Boozle. You remember Bean Boozle?
Yeah, Bean
Yeah,
Boozled.
that's what we got to do.
Yeah. So what do you think, audience? Should we add a segment the following week after we get something wrong? If we do, let us know in the comments. But until then, I guess this is a good place to just close this episode. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for listening. And just, again, engage in the comments. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe if you haven't to. It would mean the world if you guys would just share this to your friends, maybe family. We're going to be on Twitter, on Instagram, even though we still don't have a lot going on there, and definitely Facebook. So just search us up, The Screen Crusaders, and y'all have a wonderful night.